Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll be talking about the process of sharing regular content with a larger audience and engaging with users on social networks. Now, we're not talking about run-of-the-mill activity across all social networks. Do that if you want to, but this lesson focuses on driving some regular activities related directly to this program. The main idea here is that you need to demonstrate to connections and prospective connections that you're actually as active within your area of expertise as you claim to be in your invitation to connect script. You do that by sharing content, engaging in others' content, and responding to all comments from other users. The cadence of these efforts can and should be much higher than your one-on-one outreach. For those connections who do scroll through their newsfeed every day, seeing a valuable post from you each time is very unlikely to ever be annoying. So unlike the LinkedIn sequence, which is shared by one-on-one messages within connections, this engagement that we're talking about will take place in these places: LinkedIn newsfeed, LinkedIn company page, your tap groups, and if you choose, other social networks. Now, before I demonstrate the process of posting and engaging, let's cover the upfront planning process. Posting content several times per week can be a big time commitment. Therefore, it's most efficient to process it in batches and use automation to ease the workload. This consists of two steps. First, collecting and planning the resources you'll share. And second, scheduling the syndication of that content. There are a number of places to find great content that's relevant to your persona. You may already be so well connected within your target market that you already have a never-ending supply of articles, videos, infographics, podcasts, and other tools that you can pull from. But if you need new sources, here's some low-hanging fruit. First, share your own informational content. We're not talking about promoting your products and services yet, or even sharing your own white papers, case studies, success stories, or client testimonials. I'll talk momentarily about how and when to do that. For now, we're talking about information that serves your connection. That could be your own blog, podcast, or daily vlog like mine, as long as the content educates and serves your persona. You can also reshare posts that have been shared by other connections in your newsfeed. You can share content shared by others in your tap groups. You can refer to the content suggestions on your LinkedIn company page. You can set up a Feedly account, which we'll walk through here in a sec. Feedly lets you follow topics, keywords, and names, as well as news publications, blogs, YouTube channels, and more, so you can get an immediate notification of related content. This timeliness is important because it won't impress your persona if you're sharing old news on a daily basis. If you go to feedly.com, you can create a free account, and then right over here we'll click on Create Your First Feed. And maybe I call this one Law Firm Marketing. Then we want to add content. Then we start typing in the keywords, websites, other phrases that we want to include in this. So I'm going to start by typing law firm. And you can see that we get a number of suggestions. Here's a web strategy. I'm going to click on that one. And then I can see that's STEM legal. So I'm going to go ahead and follow that. And if we come back up, I can do law firm. Oh, I see we've got a marketing RSS feed here. Marketing RSS feed, I'll follow that. Marketing management, follow that. So essentially, we start following all of the different sources that we think are going to result in some interesting information that we can include in our news feed. So once this news starts coming in, what do we do with it? One of the more efficient ways to keep a collection of potential posts is in a spreadsheet. You'll see over here in our blueprint document that we have a newsfeed tab, and it's a sample worksheet for easily collecting and preparing for your first publication list. So the columns that we have here, keeping in mind not all of these will be applicable to every resource you pull together, would be a resource URL. So if you have a link to, say, an article or a webinar or a video, the text that you actually plan to include when you post this on social, any media such as an attachment, maybe it's a video or a stock photo that you want to include in your post, any hashtags or other user mentions that you want to include in the post, and then the target profile or profiles. So do you want to put this on your personal LinkedIn profile, company LinkedIn profile, other social networks? You can list those. And then the date that you intend to publish. Once you have an adequate collection of sources from which to pull great content, you'll need to start sharing it. Obviously, one option is to share your content manually, but let's review ways to automate the process so that we can step away for days at a time without losing momentum. There are numerous tools that help with the task of pre-scheduling your content syndication. Many website content management systems like WordPress, Squarespace, and HubSpot allow you to automatically share your blog, event, and other content on your connected social profiles on the day and at the time that you schedule that content to be published. This can be an ideal way to limit your work and your costs while enjoying the benefits of automation. There are other tools that allow you to create and schedule lists of customized social posts. Hootsuite, HubSpot, and Buffer are just a few of the most popular. Some of these tools have a free level of service that just restricts you on the number of social profiles you can connect to and the number of posts you can schedule, but they all prefer that you choose a premium subscription that'll run you about $15 a month to start. Lastly, you can schedule your posts on many content platforms like Medium, YouTube, SoundCloud, etc., and that's a time saver for posting the content itself, but they don't automatically share your content on the profiles we listed earlier. One way to make that happen is with a platform like Zapier or If This Then That. Doing this is more advanced and less holistic, so I'm not going to get into the details here, but if you're already familiar with one of those platforms, know that you have those options. Because we use HubSpot internally, and to avoid confusing you with yet another interface, I'm going to show you how we schedule content on that platform. So in HubSpot, I'm going to click on Marketing, and I'm going to go to Social. And from here, I can click on Create a Social Post. Notice also just below this, we have a button for Schedule in Bulk. This allows you to export the content that you have in, say, your spreadsheet and import all of these to create multiple posts in one time. That can be a huge time saver if you're collecting all of your resources and listing them in your spreadsheet. I'm going to do a one-off so you understand the general process. Now, because we've connected a number of social networks to our account, the first thing we need to do is specify which one we want to use first. So I'm going to click on LinkedIn. And you'll notice that right up here it says we're going to be posting from Distill, which is one of our company pages. I could also post to my personal LinkedIn profile, or missing link company profile, or whatever combination I want. Next thing we specify is the date and time that we want to send. And then we start placing our content inside of the box. So here I'm going to run over to our blueprint. First thing I'm going to do is just grab the URL from the sample. I'm going to paste that in there. And you'll notice that it's going to automatically pull in some content to go along with it. Next thing I'll do is grab my comment, paste that in, and I'm going to put it at the top. Coming back over, I'm not going to use my iStock photo after all because they already have a photo pre-populated. So I'm going to grab my hashtags. I'm going to put those at the bottom of the post. And then if I wanted to, I could include my mentions and just refer to the other details that I have in here. Now, if I scroll down, you'll notice that I can simultaneously send this on another network as well. So if I wanted to also tweet this out, I could click on Twitter. Once again, I get to choose from whichever Twitter accounts we have programmed in here. And it pre-populates with exactly what I had in the previous social network, but it does give me the ability to customize this so I could have a slightly different message go out on Twitter from, say, LinkedIn. When we're done, we click on Schedule Post and we're done. Be sure to hashtag your posts with no more than a half dozen or so relevant keywords. You can also tag or mention connections if you feel strongly that they should have an educated perspective on the content. But avoid tagging people indiscriminately because that's a form of spam that turns people off quickly. Keep in mind that searching for users is more clunky in these scheduling tools than it is in the native social platform interfaces. So if you like to mention people, you might want to do it manually. You'll also notice that you can have these tools post at inconsistent times and at realistic times to mimic the ways that people do it manually. This can be important for your connections, but also for the social networks, which like to see varied activity. When you share content, one thing you'll need to consider is whether you want to share on your personal profile, your company profile, or both. First, know that your connections will see your personal profile much more frequently than your company profile, so that makes your personal profile a priority. When you do post from your personal profile, you can then share the post from the company page. This is a bit like an endorsement of your content by your company, which works well. Although you do have the ability to simply share the same post on both your personal and company profiles, I don't recommend it because anyone who follows both will see a lot of the same content, making one of your profiles lower value. All posts should be engaging. That doesn't just mean exciting, it means you need to include a prompt for users to engage with it. Remember that social networks are intended to be social, not just one-way news feeds. So the algorithms reward interactions with your content. Instead of just sharing a link to a new article on creative interview questions, end your post with something like, "What's the craziest interview question you've ever heard?" By getting responses in the comments, your post will be ranked as more engaging and therefore shown to a larger audience. When people engage with your LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn, at least at the time of this recording, will then show your post in their connections news feeds for 24 hours. That's really cool. Hopefully, as you build up your TAP group membership over time, the other members will feel compelled to share thoughts and questions with the group. Nevertheless, you'll still want and need to drive activity yourself. Ideally, you should try to ensure that your group gets a minimum of 2 to 3 quality posts per week. Unfortunately, posting to LinkedIn groups from these bulk publishing tools is no longer supported, so you'll have to post to those manually. When you post in your TAP group, try to create real discussions versus just posting headlines. Posts like, "I'm seeing a huge slowdown in rental demand on the east side of town, but things seem stronger on the west side. Anyone else seeing this?" will typically drive more engagement than just sharing a related news article. Another factor that I've mentioned before is posting self-promotional content versus educational content. You can and should post self-serving updates on your personal profile, your company profile, and even within your TAP group. The key is to do it in the right ratios. Here are our rules of thumb. On your personal profile, you're positioning yourself as an expert, so you should keep your posts as educational as possible. We recommend posting self-promotional content only 1 out of every 20 posts, and not more than once per month. In your TAP group, 1 out of 5 posts from you can be self-promotional. Now, if other members are actively posting also, that could mean that a very small percentage of all posts will focus on your offerings, and that's a good thing. If you treat the group as your personal billboard, members are going to doubt the value of the group and leave. On your company profile, where company news and info are expected, you can be much more liberal and dedicate 1 out of 2 posts to self-promotional content. Again, tag other members if you feel strongly that they should have an educated perspective on the content. All right, now let's talk about your own engagement. It could be successfully argued that the most effective way to extend your LinkedIn exposure is not by posting your own content at all, but by interacting with content shared by others. The way this happens is pretty simple. You're going to refer to your LinkedIn newsfeed and react, share, and comment on posts in thoughtful and intelligent ways. If you choose to reshare a post, follow the same guidelines as with your own posts. Add insightful commentary, ask questions to drive engagement, and tag as necessary to drive exposure. Note also that you can and should be sure to keep the unaffiliated resource tip from your LinkedIn sequence up to date. One of the best ways to do that is to simply replace that resource in your sequence whenever your newsfeed research unearths a newer resource that you think would be compelling. And remember, it's okay to use the same resource in your newsfeed and your sequence. Connections are unlikely to see all of your newsfeed posts, and even for those they do see, getting to see a redundant one-on-one suggestion to check it out is still very logical. So, to review this lesson, you need to plan to share your own content several times each week, whether manually or through automation. Engage with others' posts and comments as quickly as possible. Remember that social networks reward social interactions. And be conservative with self-promotional content. And this wraps up our LinkedIn sequence, which is very exciting because the next section is going to teach you how to turn all of these amazing interactions into actual sales opportunities. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.